I'm Kevin Elizabeth, a wedding photographer based in San Diego, and I'm in a little bit of a different filming setup today. I'm still trying to test things out with my light and my audio, so just bear with me until we get a really good permanent setup. I have been wanting to make this video for a really long time because it is something that I find a little frustrating, but also something that seems like completely common sense, but somehow isn't. And if I am kind of talking to you with this, don't worry about it. Just like listen and don't make the mistakes in the future. So, what I find that happens a lot of times in brides and grooms searching for vendors is they have no idea of their budget for the vendor before they even reach out. And that's not a good thing. You absolutely need to know your budget roughly for each vendor that you're going to be reaching out to before you ever reach out to them. A lot of brides will say, oh, I'm just reaching out, like I'm trying to decide what prices even are, I'm trying to research prices. That's not really the way to go about it. Don't waste people's time just trying to learn because you don't want to do research on your own and you don't want to do the math I'm going to tell you how to do. What I'm thinking is that these brides are just sort of not knowing what to do or where to start, which is understandable because the resources for budgets, there's a lot of them, but they're not that easy. So I'm going to make this very simple for you guys. And my whole point of this is to make an entire wedding budget and then make vendor budgets before you try to start making plans. This is going to be so helpful for you so that you never get yourself in a sticky situation and that you are prepared, you know what budget you can spend on that vendor before you reach out so that if they tell you their prices, you either know that you're not able to afford them or you are able to afford them. This is going to save you so much time by just doing a little bit more legwork up front. The first thing that you should decide before you make a single wedding plan is what you're comfortable spending on the entire wedding. Whether that's $40,000, $100,000, or $500,000. You need to know what amount of money is sort of your upper ceiling for what your wedding budget can be. You should not make any wedding plans until you have determined that number. Why? Because what if you go out and just book a venue that ends up costing $20,000 and whoops, guess what? Your budget ends up being $30,000. So how are you going to get a photographer, a dress, a florist, an officiant, a band or a DJ, and all of that to fit in $10,000? Chances are that's going to be incredibly hard. So don't let yourself get in that mistake. Learn exactly the amount that you and your significant other or your parents are comfortable spending total, and that is a number that you should know. Now to take it from there, the next step that you need to do to figure out exactly how much you can budget for your photographer, your DJ, or whatever, is to take it by percentages, okay? So there are a lot of really great resources out there that tell you about what percent you should be spending on each vendor. So I think, for example, a lot of times things say do 10 to 12% for photo and video. That is not what I would do. I would raise that up a lot higher because that's a priority for me. On the flip side, if you don't care about photos, then lower that percentage. So there's all kinds of things you can do. You can start with those recommended or those national averages of percentages, and then you can tweak them. You could say, well, music's a little bit more important to us, so let's increase that budget a little bit. Or things like, transportation, we don't really need to be doing that. We're going to be there already. We can go ahead and kill that altogether. So you need to kind of do these things thinking about what's a priority and what you're going to actually utilize, and also make sure that you bake in an emergency fund or a surprise expense fund. That's something that I have been dealing with and it has been quite frustrating. So I'm glad I at least budgeted for some emergency things. So for example, I think for our wedding, I'm going to read you guys the percentages, and we kind of dictated this based on the venue that we wanted and the planner that we wanted and the photographer that we wanted, and then we adjusted everything else around it. So I have our budget here that I've used in a Google spreadsheet. It's been really easy to keep up with everything. I've made it so that it automatically tallies the percentages that we have. So we spent a whopping 37% of our budget on the venue, catering, alcohol, desserts, we have some smoothies we're doing. So that is where that comes from. But the main percent of that is the venue and the catering that comes along with it. We picked a pretty nice venue, and it was sort of a venue that we thought we really had to have. So that was why that's a little high. But typically the venue and your catering and alcohol will be your highest that you have. So moving down from there, we actually spent 14% of our budget on photography alone. We opted not to do video because we care way more about photography, and we just don't really love wedding videos. It's not us. I don't think we would ever really watch it. So that's a personal decision we made. To each their own. We would just rather have photography and have nobody interrupting our photographer or getting in their way. Again, I would encourage you to go out and look at the national averages, see what people are spending per category, and then adjust up or down based on your priorities. So this is all to help you guys know a rough dollar amount. So say if your budget is $50,000 and you want to spend 10% on photography, you know that your photography budget is going to be around $5,000. Perhaps there's a little wiggle room, perhaps there's not. It all depends on your priority. Another thing that's really great is if you start hiring vendors and some come in less than you were expecting, you can either kind of take those funds you would have spent and save them, or you can reallocate them to something else. So say there was a florist who was just out of reach for you, but now you've got a little bit of extra money, you can go hire them. So it's kind of two ways to play it there. You can save it or you can spend it. Totally up to you guys. Probably the smarter thing to do is save it, but I didn't really do that. I spent it because this is all really important to me. So I hope you guys found this video really informative. It's something to help you have numbers in mind before you start reaching out to people, wasting your time, wasting their time, because you're like, I have no idea what my budget is. I'm just collecting a bunch of people's answers. That's not a helpful way to go about things. That is a really risky way to do it, and it's just inefficient. So again, have your entire wedding budget figured out before you make a single plan, and then you can start dialing up your percentages based on what your priorities are. And you might have to adjust along the way. Maybe the venue that you're just dreaming of was a little bit more expensive than you wanted. Well, now you probably got to cut from somewhere else unless you just want to go over budget a little bit. I think we are 2% over budget, which is a little unfortunate, but it's not that terrible. We made those choices deliberately. We said, we've got to have this. This is a priority, or we're forced to have this, whatever. So it's just something that we did. So I'd say be flexible, but have these firm numbers or ranges. At least if you don't have a solid number for your photography budget, you could be between $5,000 to $6,000. You could be between $8,000 to $9,000. Know these things in mind before you ever email a vendor, and that will be so much more helpful for you and so much more helpful and appreciated by them. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys next time.